We
Yeah.
are here with Tammy. Tammy, can you go ahead and tell us what you do?
My name is Tammy, and I live in Canada. I'm a childcare supervisor for a center with 188 children. I've been doing this. I started with the company that I work with since I was 17 years old, and I've been a supervisor for over 31 years.
So, what is this child care? What is it? The center that you work for?
It's the YMCA of Credit Valley. So it's Credit Valley YMCA in Canada and Mississauga that I've been working with since I was 17 years old.
Oh, that's so fun. I don't think we have too many of those here. We have boys and girls clubs. There's a few of them spread out throughout the country. I know YMCA's, but not here in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
Um,
It's a huge organization. It's a nonprofit organization that supports families in the community and provides sources for the youth, children, families. They provide so much for everybody in the community and supports them, which is I've known that since I was 17 years old.
that's awesome. Yeah. You guys have like basketball programs and like after school programs and keeping kids off from the street.
We do. We have a gambling program. We have a health and fitness recreation. We have a newcomers program. We also have a drug substance program. We offer a YMCA employment program, camps, childcare. Um, right now, I'm supporting another school. We also have a student nutrition program. We're supporting another program right now where we're helping them with food and clothing and stuff. So we try to really spread our wings and support the community as much as we can.
Well, it's so awesome and so important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you want to tell us a little bit about your son and what you do with him? I know that's how I found you was you're an advocate.
So we have my son was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 7 years old, with opposition defiance disorder, OCD, and anxiety. Um, so for the first 3 years, we were kind of lost. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know the programs to access. And then, we started connecting with the different programs in our community. And my husband and I decided that we should set up a support group. Sorry, a support group to help support families who are starting off with ADHD um, in the beginning. Because what happens is a lot of times when your child's first diagnosed, you don't know who to connect with, you don't know who to speak to, you don't know the resources that are in your community. And we wanted to share a story about what we go through with our son and the challenges and the obstacles and what we've done and the techniques that we've used with our son to help other families who are going through a similar situation like we are.
Well, that's so important.
Mhm.
Sometimes it is such a struggle trying to find out like what works and us just sharing our stories and it kind of makes it a little easier to find stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what techniques do you use? Is it-
So we use one of the techniques that we're using right now, and because he's 14 years old, we find that when he's having a moment of a meltdown, we kind of just give him his own space. We'll bring him back to us. We'll sit down and we have a family group discussion where we'll talk about the situation that happened. We'll ask him how he's feeling. Um, we will decide on a consequence with him and we'll ask him, if he needs a consequence or we'll get his feedback on that. We talk about his emotions and how he's feeling. We'll ask him like how he can change his behavior for next time when a situation arises like that. We teach him a lot of coping strategies like how to breathe, how to communicate. We try as much as we can to support him, but we also try our best to give him his space because when they're in that state and they're frustrated, it's best to give them their own opportunity to calm down. And we've done a lot of that with him. We do a lot of rewards for him. And if he's completed something, or he's done had a good day, or he's had a good week, we'll give him a reward. And we ask him what his reward would like to be, with reason. But we do that to help support him too.
Oh, that sounds like an amazing system you guys are working on.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the diagnosis and how you started to find out, and what you guys did in order to get him where he is now.
So we noticed when he was in preschool, he was starting to distribute some behaviors, very aggressive, very physical. We had a program through our Region Appeal to come out to the Child Care Center and do an assessment on him. And with that assessment, they were able to conclude that he had some behaviors. They couldn't diagnose him at that specific moment in time. So they gave us some strategies and some different ways to work with him on coping skills. But 3 years went by, and he went to grade 1, and then we got to see a different side of him. And we were getting calls consistently from the school, from him physically hurting other students, to having major meltdowns, to running off the property. He would try to climb out the windows. He would destroy a classroom. And it got to the point where we decided we need to seek additional help. So we actually spoke with our family doctor and asked for a referral to see a psychologist. And they were able to, it took about a 4-month waiting time to get him in. But during that time, we were able to get the school to do an assessment. We did our own, it's like a workbook that we had to do. We had to do an assessment. And then once everyone was able to complete that, we were able to go in to meet with the psychologist. And at that point, that's when they diagnosed him with ADHD, the opposition defiance disorder, OCD, and anxiety. He was prescribed medication. However, the medication didn't work very well for him. It was Concerta. He had, and with ADHD medication, it takes up to 2 weeks for the medication to have a full effect. And we were noticing that he would be on it. We give it to him at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then by noon, he was coming off the medication. We tried to increase it. However, it only made matters worse, where he was crashing. So we decided to talk to our family doctor and see if there's something else that we can put him on. However, she had mentioned Vyvanse, and Vyvanse is another medication for ADHD. We put him on that, and it was amazing. He's on 40 milligrams right now. It's a 12-hour medication. He was able to focus in school. We were able to also move him from the class that he was in to a school, which was called Miller's Grove, and it was called a junk class, where he was in a classroom with 8 children that had behavioral situations. For the 3 years that he was in his class, they worked on coping strategies and helping him understand what it was going on, his learning. However, they were able to do a final assessment on him. They did an assessment on him when he was in grade 4, and then they did another assessment when he was in grade 8. They did deem him with a learning disability, and from that point, we got the school to get him a laptop. We had an occupational therapist involved, and they were able to give us the tools to help support him better in school. My husband and I have also done multitude of courses. We've done through Appeal Children's Center in Mississauga, and it's a free program where we've done courses that helped us learn about ADHD, managing behaviors. We actually even had a program, which is the Youth Appeal Association, come into our home and do a counseling training for 6 months with me and my husband, because I think at that point, even me as a supervisor didn't realize that I needed to look at how I did things. And I need to look at the fact that my parenting techniques weren't going to support him. So we had to totally revamp how we taught him. and how we were there to support him. He also was in a program too called Arise, which is a program that teaches him how to deal with his anger. And then we also went into another counseling program through Peel Children's Center where we did counseling as a family to help better support him and us too through everything that he's going through. It's been, there are days of clouds and sunshine and rainbows, and then there's days of thunderstorms. And those are the days where my husband and I have to sometimes know when we're at our wits' end and we need to tag one another out, because we need to be strong for him and we need to be there to support him. And we're only human, and unfortunately, as humans, we do go through a lot. So my husband and I tag each other as much as we possibly can. The other good thing that we do too, when Tyler was going through the diagnosis and all the changes, we make sure that we keep a close knit relationship with the school. We talk with them on a regular basis. We call them to make sure that we let the school know that we're going to be there for them and we want to support them, but we need them to know that we want them to support us as well through Tyler's obstacles or challenges that come his way.
That's awesome. You guys have figured out a lot, and it's amazing that you found so many programs that can assist you and help you in learn and teach and grow together.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Is there something that you and your husband do to maybe reset? Because I know sometimes we need time for ourselves, and it's important that we take that time and reset for ourselves.
I had to, when I was doing the training, the counseling, I had to come to terms with, because of dealing with my son and going through what we went through, I was diagnosed with anxiety. And it was coming to realization that, again, I'm only human, but I didn't realize it until someone really brought it to my attention. And I had set up an Instagram account as well for Lady Anxiety, which, I talk about my anxiety and what I go through, but I also set up an Instagram, a Facebook account for ADHD for Beginners for Support Group. And I find that group really helps me because I'm there to support those families. I'm there to talk to someone else who might be going through those obstacles and challenges that I'm going through. I do also now know, because I've been dealing with anxiety for 3 years. What I do now is take a day off for myself. And so I'll take a Friday or I'll take a Monday, and I take a me day. And same with my husband, because you need that time to rejuvenate. You need that time to recollect yourself. And my husband and I, when we go to his parents, we'll do date nights together to get out. And my in-laws will watch my son Tyler and my other younger son Noah, who's 2, so that it gives us that time just to feel good about ourselves again and what we're going through.
That's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Any words of advice for like a younger generation or a young mom?
Oh, there's no limit to what we as women can accomplish. And at any moment, you have the power to say that this is not how the story is going to end. And every woman deserves a champion and someone who will never give up on them. And I think with support and helping one another and asking for help and knowing that no question's ever stupid will, really help young women understand that they're not by themselves. They're not on this own. It's a journey that, you're going through, and the journey tells your story. And I think it's a great feeling to support someone and be there for somebody. I think at times people don't want to ask for support or seek it because they're worried what people might think of them. But the more support and greater opportunities have such an effective change in our lives and our community. And I think at that time that, as women, or, we have to be there to support each other. And I think the more that we're there and the more that we're reaching out to people, I think the more better it's going to be for someone. I always tell my team, we're here. My door is always open. And this is what I tell my support group too. I want them to feel that, we're going to be there through them through this journey. They're not alone.
Yes, community is definitely so important. That's one of the reasons that I'm building this. It's so important that we reach out, that we talk to each other, and all of us have a story. We all have challenges. We all go through stuff, and it's just talking to each other and finding out, what to do. Because if we seclude ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming and it's
Mm-hmm.
too much, and you'll never get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I find that now, now we have 871 people on our support group, and I find that um, people are thanking me, and I answer every single question that comes out, and I'm always thanking them and thanking other parents for, supporting people on our support group, because I find at times, I want them to feel comfortable to ask any of these questions, but I want them to know that, seeking the support of somebody and talking about what they're going through is very therapeutic, and it
Yes.
really helps. And I talk about my anxiety all the time. I actually share my story with my families in my center. I share the story of my son and what we go through, because I want people to know that they're not alone in this, that there are ways of getting through it. There are support systems there. There are programs out there. For an example, the other day, a mother was asking about a support system in her community, and I was able to find one for her. And I think sometimes just finding and networking with people and helping them with they're going through, makes a big difference in their lives.
Most definitely. And it also makes such a difference in your own lives too. And it, it's just so amazing to connect and to learn and to work with other people. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think it feels like, it's too much, and maybe you're embarrassed to let
Mm-hmm.
people know, or it can be an
Mm-hmm.
embarrassing moment, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But we all have those,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just important to share and to work through them.
I think you're right, because a lot of people don't want to admit that they're going through a situation, or they have a diagnosis. And there's so much stamina out there with people who um, look at somebody that may have anxiety or have a neurological disease or a mental disease, and they look at them, but at the end of the day, they don't realize what those people are going through. They're not physically in their shoes to understand. And I wish that people would be more open-minded and be better to support people out there, because um, they need the help. And sometimes people are afraid to ask for the help, because of the way people judge them. And I think that no one should be feeling like that whatsoever. And I wish there were more. I think for you, and I want to thank you too for what you've done, because you doing this and doing this empowerment thing is phenomenal, because reaching out to these women and allowing them to have a voice and speak regarding what they're doing to make a difference in life is phenomenal. And I want to thank you for doing that. And I think for me too is just the more that I talk about it and the more that I reach out to people, the more that I'm going to be able to help and support people through their journey that they're going through.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you for doing what you're doing, because that's how I found you. If you wouldn't have put your voice out there, I wouldn't have found you. And, it is such an important thing. And there are so many stigmas around mental health and all of that. But I mean, when it comes down to it, a lot of us have it. A lot of us have PTSD. It's not
Mhm,
just something for people that were in the service or
mhm,
anything like that. There's so
mhm,
many women out there who have PTSD.
mhm,
There's, I mean, anxiety. Anxiety is huge. You can get it from just about anything,
mhm,
and all the way down to bipolar and schizophrenia and all these other things. And I think those people sometimes get so shut out because we just don't understand. But
Mm-hmm.
if we
Mm-hmm.
talk to them and we
Mm-hmm.
speak to them and we understand that their day and understand what they're going through, because they're just like us, they just
Mm-hmm.
see the world in a different light, see
Mm-hmm.
things in a different color. And we all could get along and move through the world easily if we all just understand what everybody's going through and just
Exactly.
show a little bit of empathy.
Just a little, right?
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah.
That's one thing I try and teach my kids so much is
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
show some empathy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if they're being mean, usually there's a reason why. There's something
Yes.
there. And
And it's true. And I think you're right what you're saying, because we tell Tyler that all the time. One day he's going to be able to be out there and help someone else, and he's going to be able to get them through what they may be experiencing and what they may be going through. And, always be there. Like, if you see someone and they don't seem fine, ask them if they're okay. Um, I think that's the problem in the world, that we don't ask enough, and we notice things, and I think people ignore them thinking it's not my problem. But even those little things to say, how is your day going? Are you okay today? Makes a big difference in somebody's life, because that is just the initial start to having someone feel that they can come out and share what they're going through.
absolutely. And it could literally save a life. You don't know what somebody's going through, and um, suicide awareness. That's one of the
Mm,
huge things out there too. I mean, you never know. Just saying hi to that person or asking them if they're doing okay could, potentially save their life or make their day.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's very true. Yeah. I mean, and for my son, I mean, he's had moments of suicidal thoughts, and it's devastating to see your child go through that and have that thought process. And I don't want him to ever go through that again, but there could be that possibility where he could. We have a crisis system set up for him in case he does have those moments. But it's so scary. And unfortunately, with ADHD, um, they don't like to talk about their emotions and their feelings. They hide it a lot. So, we're always asking him, "Are you okay? Is everything fine?" But even for my husband, he's there to support me. I can't thank my husband enough for everything he's done for me, and going through what we've gone through with my son, and me being diagnosed with what I have. He's just been, a savior in my life, and I don't think I'd be where I am today without him being in our life and supporting me and my son.
It's so amazing that he can be there for you, and
Hmm.
and that you guys have worked together. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Um, the the system you have for your son when he's feeling like that. Do you want to share a little bit about that? Maybe somebody can learn from that if somebody they know or love is, having those thoughts.
When Tyler's having the moment of when he's very emotional, or he's closed in, or he's hiding in his room, we know something's wrong. And so we look for the signs that we're when he's in those states. We'll go in and we'll ask him, do you want to share with us how you're feeling? Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? We'll ask him, um, do you need a hug? And there's times where we've asked him those questions when he's at that state, and he breaks down and cries, and all he wants to do is just be hugged, and we'll hold him for a good 10 to 15 minutes until he stopped crying. And then he'll talk about why he's feeling the way he's feeling, what he was going through at that moment in time. He actually, we've given him the crisis number for him, and it's inside his wallet. So if he's at school or if he's on his way home, if he's having a moment of a thought, a suicide thought, or he's just having a moment where he's not feeling very well that day, he can pick up the phone and call them. I find a lot of times, sometimes too, is especially with boys, they like to talk on the phone, but they don't like talking face to face.
Yes.
So what we do too is when he's in that state of frame, I will sit beside him. I will not make eye contact with him, and he's able to express himself more better than to say you need to look at me. So we use that tool with him as well, and it seems to be much more helpful with him. But we do have the crisis number on the fridge in our home, so in case there's ever a moment that he's not himself, we know what to do. We have a plan, and we have that number with us at all times as well.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are embracing it, because that's definitely one of those things that I think is tried to silence, and you know it's definitely something that like most people don't want to talk about. But
Mhm.
I mean, even just a hug, that's such an amazing thing. Like
Mhm.
a hug can do so much.
Mhm.
And you know just because the people don't want to talk about
Mhm.
that topic, it's not going to go away, and it's especially not going to go away for that person.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I definitely applaud you guys for that, and for giving him that number and making it so easy for him to communicate on that. That's definitely
Oh,
an
thank
awesome
you.
thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
um is there a woman in your life, or multiple women, that empower you, that you can think of, that maybe you learned from?
Ah, I think I look up to um, the social workers um, that have been there to support my husband and I through the things that we've gone through in our life. Um, I think for that, it knowing that they've always been there for me and my husband is something that we look upon um, so much, because I don't think like I said before, I don't think I'd be sitting where I am right now if I didn't have those supports in place for me and
Yes.
for my husband. It's difficult when you have to go through it, and when your son's been diagnosed or you've been diagnosed with an illness. But at the end of the day, I think having those supports in place and looking up, I think that I've looked up to them so much in my life because that's who has helped supported me through everything that I've gone through.
Absolutely, for sure. um is there any advice you give for a younger generation, or maybe a young person that's going through the stuff that your son has gone through? Is there anything you would like to say to someone like that?
I think they need to know that start off every day as a fresh day. Take a deep breath in the morning, knowing that you have basically it is going to be there are going to be challenges, there are going to be obstacles that you're going to go through, but remember at the end of the day to hug your child, and let them know that you love them, and know that you don't have to go through this by yourself. There are people to help at any point in time. Um, don't feel like you can take on the world, because at times, even for me, I thought I could take on the world, and I forgot that I can't do that. I need to ask sometimes for help and support, and it's okay. It's okay to ask for that.
Nice. It is okay to ask for help, and it's so important to build that community and not be alone.
Hmm.
um is there a time that you felt most empowered, maybe?
Um, yeah, I think in the last 3 months with this support group has really empowered me. I really like helping people, and I think it's such a passion to know that I was able to give a parent advice or help them with their child, or give them the supports that they need. Um, that feels so rewarding for me, that I could be there for somebody, and it's just such a phenomenal thing that, my husband and I talked about doing this, and then I didn't think it would start off the way it did. And now I look at it, I'm like, wow. And so every night I'm at home. Um, Literally last night I went to look on the support group. There's 95 people that wanted to join. And I have 22 people that have pending posts that I need to review tonight and post them. Every day someone's coming up. And then the other day I felt so rewarded and helpful that I spoke with a mother over the phone and helped her with her meeting that she had to go in to meet with the school. And that just makes me feel so good that I'm helping someone else, because like I said, when we had to go through it, there wasn't that much support. Now that I know, I want to do everything I can and my husband to help everyone else that we can.
That's so awesome. That's definitely an amazing thing. I know when I was going through all the meetings with my daughter and to set up for the IEPs and all of that stuff and all the learning disability stuff with the schools and stuff, it can be so overwhelming. And sometimes it's a huge learning curve because educators are speaking one language because they're educators and they know all the stuff that's going on. And, most of us just went through school and, we didn't know the educator side. And so trying to learn, what they're talking about and being prepared to be that advocate for your child and knowing, what to tell them, what you see. Because as parents, we do see a lot more. We see, we know our child. And it's so important that we are their advocate. And I think it's amazing that you're helping these moms and stuff with their kids. That's so awesome.
It's ironic because when I was sharing with another mother the other day, I actually have a book, and in the book has all the IEP reports, the safety plans, the medical diagnosis, the counseling, the trainings, the doctor's reports. And when I go into these meetings with the school, I have them so that I can speak to and I can show them what we've done and what we've gone through, so they can understand, you know, our journey. And a lot of people are like really amazed because they're like, whoa. And it's funny, now we're always one step ahead of the school because we know what to expect and we know what to do.
Yeah.
But you're right. We have to, they're still young. These precious children are still young and they don't have a voice. And us as parents need to be their advocate and support them and help them. And, that's why I want to advocate for these families on the support group, because I know what they're going through. And I always say, and you're right, we're the biggest voices for them.
Yes.
We're the ones that can help them.
And we have to be like, not knocking schools and stuff, but sometimes they can be a little pushy and think that they know, and they know best. And, there's been quite a few times where, I've had to put my foot down myself and let them know, what my child needs and what's working for them and what's not working for them. And, make sure that they're not just being pushed through, that they're actually getting what they need to get.
And that's the thing. I think at times that, we found that too, that at times we've had, when Tyler was in his schools, where he had situations where they would have a lot of the behavioral situations would go on, where, they were quick to point out his behavior. And we had to turn around and say, what have you done in the classroom? How have you modified the program? How have you been there to, support the environment? It's about inclusiveness. It's about offering him an environment that supports his needs in there. There were times where, they're like, sit at the desk, and it's like he can't sit. So it's like, give him some time to get up and move around, put a yoga ball at his desk, put fidget toys at his desk. If he has a moment, they finally would send him outside and let him run around for like 20 minutes. But the time, and it's hard to say this, but sometimes the teachers don't have the skills when they're dealing with a diagnosis with a child with a neurologist disease. They don't have the skills. And so I would print stuff off for them and I would bring it in. I would give them the tools that they need to support. And I would say, we'll come into the classroom, we'll sit in and we'll walk you through what you need to do. Now it's getting better, but it's, in the beginning, it was really rough because these teachers didn't understand it. And we were still learning what you need to do, but we would now, you're right, I put my foot down sometimes and say, put yourself in his shoes. If he doesn't think the same way you do, you got to work around that to support him. The one thing is, we found out that he, from his brain to his hand, he has a thought. From that thought, he can't take that thought and write it. He needs to put it, if he does it on the computer, he can write it, he can do an oral presentation, but he can't, process that. And so now we advocated for him, and we were able to get him a laptop at school so that he
Yeah.
can do all this work on a laptop instead. And I think that's where sometimes the school doesn't look at those little things, and that's where sometimes they need to really kind of really network with the families and find out what works for us at home, and maybe some of those techniques that work at home can work in the school as well.
Absolutely. And it's just sometimes such small little tweaks, like my daughter needs audio. And, it's such a small little tweak, but it does so much for them in class. And we should most definitely make sure that they're allowed to do it, because this is their education. And, it's not just one way. Everybody does not learn just one way.
It's funny you're saying that, because in Tyler's junk class, and his teacher, June, she advocated so much for these children in her program, where she was able to get a smart board in the classroom, because she knew visually they work better visually seeing things. And ever since she had that, the kids are doing phenomenal. She even got iPads for the class so that it would support their needs in the program. And I look up so much to this teacher. She's done so much for us in the years that Tyler's gone through his diagnosis. And, I wish all teachers were like her. I wish I could clone that teacher, because it would make it so much more easier for these children and what they're going through.
Absolutely. And that's something we definitely got to keep working on, all the way around, is making sure that schools are getting the funding that they need and everything that they're needing. I don't know what Canada is doing. I know a lot of our states right now where, we've got the legalized marijuana, which is starting to fund the schools, which is actually doing some amazing things in some of the states that have voted it in and allowed it. And so awesome that they're getting some funding now. Yeah.
Canada has legalized it. It is allowed in Canada. Some people do use it for medical reasons. Others something different. Some of the parents on our support group were talking about the CBD oil, and has anybody tried the CBD oil? I've heard things that it really helps with children with ADHD and helps them focus. We've not tried it with Tyler yet, but we are looking at that possible avenue to see if that would help support him more, especially with his anxiety, and seeing if that's a possibility. But yeah, I think it went legalized like 2 years ago in Canada. So it's been, a new change for us up here.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here in Vegas, it's always been around, but it has changed a bit. Like you go down on Las Vegas Boulevard and you can pretty much smell it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it's definitely brought more revenue to the town and stuff, and hopefully we'll see that going into the schools here soon. And
right, exactly.
Bring more into the schools. All right. Well, my last question is an inspirational quote that you use in a hard time. Maybe just something simple that you say to yourself when when everything's a little rough and maybe you just need a minute to like refocus.
I think my life is a journey, and I know that my journey will have challenges with it, but at the end of the road, there will be a moment and many times where I can celebrate the success of my journey.
That's nice. It is a journey, and we got to think of it as that and
Hmm.
know that it's not done until it's done, and we can change
Hmm.
the path and we can move and we can decide.
Hmm.
And thank you very much, and
Oh,
thank you
you're
for being
welcome.
on my show.
Oh, you're
Uh,
welcome.
yes, you gave us so much good information,
Oh, you're
and you're
welcome.
going to help so many people. And
Yes, thank you. And thank you again for having me and, and allowing me this opportunity to speak and be there to empower people. And, and again, thank you for all the hard work that you're doing. It's amazing. You're doing a great job. And I really am honored to have met you and, keep doing what you're doing because what you're doing right now is you're supporting a lot of people and giving them that avenue of, feeling like they have a voice as well.
thank you very much.
Oh,
And
you're
we'll come back
welcome.
and revisit you and check up on you and
Yes.
your family. Yes, most
Okay. Yes.
definitely. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you
You
so
have a
much. Okay.
wonderful day. Get back to work.
I will. Thank you.
All
Okay. Take
right.
care. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.